Hello and welcome. Live stream reviewing the first day of preseason practices. I'm excited. I know it's a little bit different this year, in the fact that the excitement level, everyone's a little bit unsure of what exactly is going to happen with the season and all of that. And I know it's been a lot different for me as well, just having covered so many seasons, always at first day of practices. It's just a little bit different this year. But I want to jump in on some things, guys. Like, I definitely feel like you guys are excited about the season, and let's just go with that. Like, let's just go with what is actually happening. They are practicing. I'm excited about it in the sense that I think there's a lot to be excited about. It's actual football, and I feel like, just right now, I want to do these live streams. You guys have, shout out to everybody who's been doing the Dynasty live streams and these other videos when I pop on. I haven't been doing one in a while, but I wanted to do this because I felt like there was a lot to get to, a lot to unpack. I was on Zoom calls today with Manny Diaz, Quincy Roche, and Zach McLeod, asked some questions, so I want to get to that. And then the day before, obviously the big news with Greg Rousseau, I want to get to that as well and talk about that Zoom call with Manny Diaz and just kind of how all that went down. And if you guys are curious, definitely check out InsideTheU.com. I definitely have articles on offensive linemen. I asked Manny Diaz about that tonight. I definitely want to get some stuff out there on Jared Williams. Nevan Donaldson, Isaiah Walker talked about them as well. So let's get right into it as far as basically just kind of bringing more information, stuff that I've been writing about, some videos I put together, and just different things like that. But definitely jump in the comments if there's things you guys want to talk about. Shout out to everybody on the Inside the U message board. You guys have been blowing that thing up like crazy lately. It's been fantastic. Definitely appreciate it. Drop in the comments. Glad you're here, Kimsey. Hope there's a season. Definitely. I know everybody does. Going through as many games on YouTube as you can. Yeah, I feel like either people watching past games, and I feel like, at least for me, and I've watched a bunch of old games too, but it only goes so far. You know what I mean? Like, it only can take you so far other than like the real live action. You cannot simulate that. You cannot duplicate the actual reality of what's going on. So let's get right into it. I want to recap the offensive line. Let's talk about that real quick because I have not had a chance to ask Manny Diaz about it. And so I wanted to do that. I got a question early on the Zoom call tonight. And the way it works with reporters is, so we get Zoom calls after practices. They had a 2-hour practice tonight from 6:30 to 8:30. Obviously, with everything going on, we're not able to be there, but we're able to get the Zoom calls after practice. And so I was definitely just trying to pump out as much information as possible. And the big thing that stood out to me, so I asked Manny about Jared Williams. Let's just start with that. And it's crazy because you guys remember, it feels like forever ago when he transferred, so much has happened with recruiting, and other things that have happened since. But Manny's not talked about him. So I asked about him, things that stood out to him, and where he played. He's a guy that started 19 games at Houston, 17 at right tackle, 2 at left tackle. It comes to Miami with more experience than anyone other than Nevan Donaldson, and we'll get to him in a second. But yeah, Jason, it's showtime. Glad you're here, man. That's awesome. I know it's showtime. I'm excited. I know it's weird to be excited about just everything going on, but we've got to be excited. We've got to find a way to be excited about things. And Jared Williams, so tonight he played right tackle. I asked Mandy that. That's what he said. He said he played right tackle tonight. I think it's definitely, you understand why, but I still just feel like he could be left tackle. I feel like with the experience, and Rhett Lashley on his Zoom call once again really mentioned John Campbell. And I know you guys are maybe a little bit uncertain about John Campbell because you guys saw that Florida game last year. He started there and struggled, went to the bench, didn't see him again until the last game of the year in the Independence Bowl when Donaldson gets hurt. But Rhett Lashley, Garen Justice, it's proof they really like John Campbell because his name always comes up. And to me, it's not coming up in the sense of just throwing his name out there. You're trying to read everything when you're not out there, and obviously you're talking to people, but the big thing is they're definitely mentioning him early in sentences. They're definitely just like making sure he's included in that. And I find that he's definitely going to be there. So my point is, I don't see Jared not being able to beat out a little bit of uncertainty at left tackle. It would surprise me unless he's just not able to get, maybe he's just better at right tackle. So, and one thing that I noticed too, as Rhett said, is that and it wasn't provoked. Somebody he just kind of said, I think the left tackle's a little bit overrated. So I wonder, and just and he kind of explained it, but I guess it was a little bit uncertain because I think everybody knows in football the importance of left tackle, but maybe he's trying to downplay it in the sense that Jared, maybe if you're reading into things, maybe they do feel like Jared's more of a right tackle and they don't want to overdo it and think it's a big deal. So I don't know. Again, reading into some things there based on some of the things Rhett said, man, just thinking about all these Zoom calls the last 2 days, a lot to unpack. Real Skip Jr., glad to hear Kane. Don Snaps, glad you're here. So you're Mike. I don't know who Mike is. I got my mic on, hopefully, but Nevan Donaldson asked Manny about him, and his response kind of surprised me. So I asked again because we've not heard Manny talk about Nevan, and I think again everybody has put that aside. It's not a huge discussion point, but bottom line is Nevan, although he needs to be better, we can say that, but that's fine. He's still started the last 3 years, 34 games. Nobody has that kind of experience on the offensive line. So the big thing I think with Nevan, when I asked Manny, was, just kind of an update. And the thing that stood out to me was not only we all know that Nevan said he's going to redshirt, which means he can play in 4 games, but what jumped out to me was what Manny said was he could play maybe up to 6 games because there's some talk about that change, a little bit of a rule change. Keep in mind, just kind of stay up to date on that. That's a little bit new information, and maybe you've heard a little bit of buzz, but just to hear a head coach talk about it, it's one thing if you hear a little bit of rumors or a little bit of discussion on the boards, things like that, or even a reporter bringing it up. But the fact that a head coach brings it up makes you definitely have to think about it. So if you think about Donaldson possibly getting 6 games instead of just the 4, and he definitely said the big reason why he wasn't going to redshirt or why he redshirted was because he just wasn't going to be ready in August. So look for him to join the mix later. Once again, we are speaking, assuming that's all we can do right now. Just assume everything's going to play out fine. Obviously, certainly there's tons of question marks. But Benjamin, glad you're here. Thrown up from Pittsburgh. I love it. Maybe you're close to the Allegheny River. I love Three Rivers. The stadium is great. Yeah, it's just Pomani Brothers, everything. Pirates, Penguins, Steelers. There you go. But anyways, the one thing also too I mentioned with Isaiah Walker, we asked Rhett Lashley the day before about Isaiah Walker, status of his waiver. Rhett said that's a good question for Manny Diaz. So what do we do tonight? I make sure to ask Manny Diaz that because that's what he said. So let's get right to it. Manny said, the big thing with him was the waiver certainly is nothing decided right now, but the waiver doesn't need to be decided. He said September 11th. I think he said September 11th in the sense that maybe thinking the game was September. I interpret it this way. I didn't get clarification, but just maybe he thought the game was September 12th on the opener the day before. Miami actually opens on the 10th. So I'm thinking he's thinking as long as it's done by the day before the game. So, but maybe he meant the day. I don't. I just assume that's what he said. But anyways, he did say it's September 11th. So basically, Isaiah's practicing. Got a scoop over the summer that he'd been losing weight. Then it comes out with the official roster, 290 pounds. Definitely feel good about that because that was a guy that, didn't have necessarily a lot of bad weight to worry about, but he has so many strengths and positives with his footwork and hand placement that you add in coming down to 290 and you feel like, okay, he's a little bit lighter, a little bit better. And then what do we see the day before preseason practice starts? He drops a post that he's 300 pounds on the scale. And I feel like that's even better. Just that the fact that the weight, you can come down a little bit. He was playing higher than that. He was in the 300s, well into the 300s, senior year at high school in Norland. So come down a little bit up. Feel good about that. Stands about 6'5". He's going to start out at tackle. It seems like that's what Lashley said. But certainly he's a talented enough guy where he could play inside. And they're just hoping that he's able to get in the mix and whatnot there. So that's kind of just the update with there's 3 offensive linemen from the jump. Benjamin, glad you're here. Huge Steelers fan. Yeah, I know. I'm glad you're just jumping that on that Pittsburgh stuff. And Marcus, glad you're here, man, from Alabama. That's awesome. Shout out to Mobile. I think you guys remember, if you guys are diehard Miami fans that followed InsideTheU for a long time, I think you guys remember our epic trip to go see Malik Rozier play in high school, crossing the state border over to Alabama. Had a good time there. Got some good local food, good local eats down there. But but yeah, just a lot of interesting things going on. So that's the offensive line. That's what stands out to me there. Those three guys I mentioned when I asked Manny. The John Campbell situation, again, one to keep an eye on. And I guess if we're just reading into some more things, DJ Scaife. So when Rhett Lashley on the Zoom call yesterday was listing off the offensive tackles that they have, went through the order and did not mention DJ Scaife. And Aubrey's here from Kentucky. Man, shout out to the United States. Look at everybody. And you know what? I say that, and I know someone's going to pop in from outside the U.S. because we see it so much on Inside the U. It's been great over the years. Man, people either, if they've got serving the U.S., overseas in the military, people popping on, or just moved abroad, or just somehow latched onto the Miami Hurricanes program. I think that's the big thing. That's really as a community. It's not just South Florida. So hopefully everybody's staying safe and all that. Glad you're here. I jumped on a little bit later than I wanted to, but I want to get all my writing done. The photos, the videos, you gotta check that out. The video clips are up. It's the best we can do right now, but I tried to mix them up, edit them a little bit than what maybe you guys have seen. So there's the offensive line. But DJ Scaife, what stands out to me is Rhett didn't mention him in the tackles. So, and I think you guys have known, DJ can play guard, and he started more of his games at Miami at tackle. But we saw in the spring, again, just before practices, he was playing more guard. So the fact that, once again, reading into it a little bit, just talking to Rhett or just hearing him talk on that Zoom call, that's what he said. He didn't mention DJ in the tackle discussion. So I'm thinking definitely they're looking at him as guard. And I think that's a little bit of news in the sense of you're starting to see how it shakes out a little bit. Obviously, a lot of things can change. So if you guys are just jumping in, again, Miami man, I said spring because we've been talking about spring so long. First actual preseason practice tonight. They practice again tomorrow night. And then Sunday is their first practice. They're going to go in pads. So that's all we know right now as far as the schedule goes. And that's pretty typical for Miami. They release 3 days at a time or a weekend chunk, and maybe sometimes we get a week in advance, but it's not too uncommon that we just get a little bit of known practices at a time. So nothing out of the ordinary there. One thing I want to touch base with real quick, we can move on, jump in the comments. If there's positions, players you guys are curious about, maybe you saw an article on our site there on Inside the U that you're curious about, maybe a little clarification. And I know, man, yesterday, and I know we had a good day today too, but yesterday we did almost 30 articles from the commitment to Leonard Taylor. I know you guys are excited about that. We had plenty of coverage on that. The team, the Zoom calls, Greg Rousseau, everything. So I think 30 new content items. We're doing 50% off VIP subscriptions all month. So college football vids, what's going on? Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, drop in the comments whatever you guys want to talk about. But one thing that stood out to me was I asked Manny about what the summer's been like, and they had this interesting walkthrough process that teams were able to do the last 2 weeks. And the thing that stood out to him was, because I was curious, what's kind of stood out to you, and Rhett Lashley touched on a little bit too, but the big thing was they were able to have these walkthroughs for 2 weeks where they could install their offensive and defensive schemes, and basically you cut down on what you're going to do right now. So now they can get into more drill stuff. They can kind of get more into that rather than that walkthrough so much with the playbook. And especially now, it felt like they definitely needed that as far as how much time they've been away from each other, how little spring ball they had. And it definitely seemed like it helped. And Manny talked about that. So I thought that was interesting. And, still obviously going to be some rust in these next few days. But, it was definitely a good thing to do, and it seemed beneficial for the team. So how is Jeremiah Payton? I'm glad you're there. Running backs, Don Snaps. Running backs, there's something I'm working on with running backs I'm excited about. Basically, how running backs fit into an offensive scheme like Rhett Lashley's, because we talk so much about the quarterback position, obviously. Talk so much about the wide receivers, which makes sense. We talk about the speed, the tempo, even the O-line, as far as how they can handle it, as far as, staying up, their stamina, all those things that are so important to run a fast-paced offense. And I think even with Brevin Jordan and Will Mallory in the tight end position, just that they're able to do certain things. But I really feel like the most left out position on offense when we talk about this new offense is the running back position. So I'm definitely going to dive into that. Hopefully within the next week or definitely, I just want to get to it. It's something I've been working on for a little bit this summer. I was hoping to have it down by now. Running backs are good. I still think Cameron Harris is the guy. He added a little bit more weight. Check the weights. I think he's close to 5'10" or 210 right now. It's a little bit heavier. I think he was about 205 last year. Still a little bit interesting to me. It's just me, but I'm always a little bit concerned when running backs start to add in that little extra weight. Once, especially that 5'9", 5'10" running back. And maybe it's kind of going back to Duke Johnson. I felt like as productive as he was, if you look how he was as a freshman and then just adding a little bit more weight, I just thought he was a little bit different a player, and I worry about smaller backs adding too much weight if it's not really in their frame. But certainly Cam wants to take on a big load. You understand why running backs do that. So, anyways, I think it'll be him, Jalen Knight, John Chaney Jr., healthy, that kind of thing, looking to step in and fill roles as well. Robert Burns looking to stay in the mix. Jeremiah Payton is a guy I talk about quite a bit. He's someone, you see him in the picture. I want to switch up those pictures a little bit. We got a few photos from practice. That photo's from tonight. You see him going up on a ball with Takori Couch at cornerback. Jeremiah Payton, I think he's pretty much just slotted to that number 4 spot at wide receiver. I think he's well ahead of the guys behind him, and I think he's just a little tad bit below the guys in front of him. Mark Pope, D. Wiggins, Mike Harley in no order. Those will be their top 3. Jeremiah Payton will play a lot. Good player, about 6'1", 190. Surprised he didn't play more last year. I still think there's a lot of ability there. I think he's closer to that 195. I don't have the roster right in front of me, but I'm always staying up to date. Everyone participating, Mike. First off, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Yes, Brevin practiced today. Big thing with Brevin, I put a little note on the message board. Comes out, and I got a little. Maybe we'll get into that Greg Rousseau thing real quick. Just the way it went down and the way we found out about it on that Zoom call yesterday. But basically, anyways, after that, someone asked Brevin, "Are you playing this year?" And he's like, "Well, obviously." So he put that to rest that he's definitely playing this year. As far as we get, no, just he's definitely playing, and he's a guy that's highly regarded. So not only is he put that to rest, you saw maybe about a month ago, where are we? Yeah, about a month ago, he posted a video. It was a workout, that he was healthy, ready to go, full go. And so posted that. That was good to see. You guys can check it out on the channel here. And just if you guys haven't yet, be sure to subscribe. We're getting so close to 10,000. I can't believe it. The strides we've made this year, it's impressive. The fan base has been incredible. Everything just came to a halt there in March. And if any of you guys have been watching all the Dynasty series, the video game stuff I've been doing, it's definitely been great, seeing the number of kickups. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Knock that out of the way. Get more videos and stuff. But yeah, the Brevin stuff. So anyways, Brevin, and he practiced. So I think that's an important thing that was good to see. And, certainly important. And Derek King, when he was on he did an interview this morning. Man, there's so much going on. Just listen to interviews, being on the Zoom calls with the players and coaches. But Derek said, he thinks he's got the best tight end group in the country. And obviously you hear players say that all the time. And that's not really my takeaway. My takeaway is that he's very impressed with both of them already. He hasn't had a lot of work with Brevin yet. He hasn't been on the field a lot with them, but he's already really impressed with them. And it makes sense. There's a lot to like about Brevin, brings a lot to the offense. So good to see there. Will Mallory is a guy that you're definitely very excited to see in terms of his development. I thought he made good strides last year from the year before. So you're hoping he continues to progress. And then you're just hoping the other guys come along as well. I need to get to some of these comments. I know you guys are jumping on. Aubrey's letting everybody know he's in Lexington in college. There we go. And then David's here. Shout out to the U. Yep, Mike McCarr. Players still opt out. Yeah, I think there was a little confusion, Mike, with the opting out. Yeah, certainly they can still opt out. The opt-out deadline was for the NFL players. It was a 4 p.m. deadline set yesterday. And so I think there was a little bit of confusion in the sense that if college players opt out, most of them it's because of the draft or they want to focus on the draft, whether they're a high pick or not. So I think there was a little bit of overlap. Then practices starting this week. It got, a team like Miami, a guy like Greg Rousseau, a lot of stuff kind of comes out at the same time as the NFL opt-outs. But they were doing that because NFL's got their contract situation with the 350,000. If they have a reason or considered high risk, and then 150 if not. But anyway, so it was basically a lot of contract stuff they were trying to work out there. And I think you guys know former Hurricanes Alan Hearns, Travis Benjamin are two of the 60 plus NFL guys that went ahead and opted out. So interesting there. You guys are local here in Miami, Dolphins fans. Hearns a Dolphin. And then Benjamin, interesting move by him because he signs that deal with the 49ers in the offseason and then just unable or just decides not to move forward with it. So what else we got? Don Snaps, DBs, how'd they look? You know what? We saw limited stuff based on what sends us. Their media's not allowed to attend practice this year, as far as as the time goes, or as far as it is right now, and it's hard to see anything change anytime soon. But what we are able to get is Zoom calls after every practice, pretty much every practice. Then we're able to talk to people and see how things went. And also sends us videos and things like that. And I put up some video highlights of just what we did get. So it's hard to say how did they look tonight. I think that's what stands out to me with the DBs. And if you guys have been following recruiting, you've seen the big influx of the secondary players, the young guys coming in. And just maybe a little bit of note, I could kind of say how they looked, but Avante Williams, top signee in Miami's 2020 recruiting class, enters in. He's about 6', 180. Everybody viewed him as a safety. And so the question to Blake Baker was, where is he going to start? Because they're kind of crowded at safety. There's some spots there at corner. Maybe he could play there, especially with his size, athletic ability, those kind of things. And Blake said he's going to start him at free safety. So I thought that was a little bit of news. Just, we got to know, and I think that what stands out to me based on Blake's comments was he's really impressed with his ability to hit and just, obviously his athletic ability is there, but just his ability to knock someone's head off, that kind of mentality, that kind of ability. He's seen those flashes, even though he just got here in that second session there, that second group of, signees that came a little bit later. So, and Avante, yeah, that's a little bit with him. I think from the spring, kind of recapping, Christian Williams certainly seemed a little bit more ahead of Takori Couch, just those 4 practices there at that third cornerback spot. Find that to be interesting. Again, Christian has good size, and you definitely can see how he'll be needed. But it's just those 4 corners. Then you bring in Isaiah Dunson. I saw some work. He sent me some workout stuff that he did this summer. Definitely had to put that up on the channel. I think you guys saw that. What strikes me about Isaiah is his length. He looks very young, has good length. Seems like he was in a good workout group of work. The guys he was training with. So I thought that was good, as he was getting ready for his freshman year. So he's in here now, and then the other guys are safeties. And I'm kind of curious of what you guys think on the safety position. And I say that because I've made my opinion known. Whenever we do these videos or opinions, just I really want to see Bubba Bolden in there because I think he is. Honestly, I think he's their best safety when he's healthy. His range, ability, I think what he could do as far as, in pass coverage, deflecting the ball, interceptions, those kind of things that I don't think Gervin Hall or Amari Carty bring you that same kind of ability. And I always like to have at least one safety tracking balls in the air, getting their hands on balls. And I think it's very common. It's one thing to have good tackling at safety. And Miami, that's maybe the biggest key for a safety to get on the field. The defense in general, but a safety, they've got to be able to tackle, got to be able to hit. So that's their focus. Personally, I always like when a safety can show the range and get to the balls in the air, and Bubba brings that. So I would go Bubba and Gervin, and that's leaving out Amari Carter. I understand that. He's played a lot at Miami, and he's a senior. So maybe you guys feel differently. Maybe you guys would rather go that senior, go Gervin. Haven't seen enough of Bubba. And so maybe you just go those two. Or maybe Gervin's the odd man out. I'm just kind of curious what you guys think there. I think it's interesting for sure. So here we go. What do we got? We got a Velociraptor in here. All right. Jurassic Park. We got to look out for that. Okay, Cape Coral. Shout out to Cape Coral. Don Chaney practice. Ocala Kane, as far as we know, Don mentioned over the summer and the offseason he was going to be ready full go. So unless something happened, he had a setback recently, and I've not heard anything. I assumed he practiced. Definitely would love to check in with that. But definitely think he's in there. When the thing is, when we ask Manny, is anybody out? Is anybody opting out? And he says no. You just have to take him for his word. So, and he didn't mention anything there. So we're just gonna have to trust a little bit. We'll have to talk to some people, to try to find out some things. So we'll definitely do that. Definitely will do that. Okay, Kwame's in here. Shout out to Kwame. I'm glad you're here. All right, Lakers all day. I know you like Bubba Bolden. There you go. Yep, Mike, you got it. 23 is Corey Couch. Kind of want to switch up the photos a little bit. We got a little bit of photos. You guys have seen the videos. Let's see if I can get another photo in here. Just switching things up, guys. Nothing big. But yeah, things are going well. Doing as best we can with the coverage. I think you guys have seen plenty of stuff, and there's so many more positions. I want to get to some more Zoom calls and some questions able to ask here. Let's bring this one up real quick. Let's do this one. Switching it up here a little bit. So Quincy Roche. Quincy talked tonight on the Zoom call, and the big thing with Quincy obviously is, okay, Greg Rousseau moves on, and he was the number one guy, had the attention, did it last year, looking at, the whole thing. And then Quincy comes in, Defensive Player of the Year in the AAC at Temple last year. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't seem like he had as much fanfare, as much hype around him as you would think for a guy that did what he did. I know it was at Temple, but really good player. 13 sacks last year, a lot of tackles, flies off the ball, good against the run, good against the pass, very balanced player, going to bring a lot. But basically, question was asked, hey, Quincy, basically you're stepping up into that number one role. And Jaelan Phillips is there too. And Jaelan has a lot more, a lot to prove. And I definitely want to talk about Jaelan right after this. But with Quincy, seems to me, just watching the Zoom call there, and I'm going to put that up on the site, guys. I think you guys would like to see that. Maybe just you don't know much about Quincy. He did I think he just did the one spring interview at the podium, at the press conference, those kind of things. I think, I just don't think you guys have seen too much about him. So I want to put that up. I'll do that before call it a night here. Plenty of articles already up. But so Quincy, to me, watching that, listening to him talk, he definitely seemed to embrace it. Basically, like I did it at Temple. Like I was the leader last year. That kind of thing. And he stepped up. I have his games played is always a big thing to me. Games played and starting, because I like to see how a guy progresses. And so the Roche thing. Okay, so he started last year, but then the year before played in all 13, but only started 5, and those were his first 5 starts of his career. So he really took that big jump last year into that role, and he just, to me, just seems willing to take it on, willing to handle it, seem much more comfortable in the call today than he was before when we got a chance to talk to him. So I thought that was good. That's a good sign. I had a question to Quincy. My question to him was, and I've been working on this. I was working on this video late today. I couldn't get it up before the practices were over, but it's not surprising. You guys hear all the names, but basically, I was watching the game when Quincy went up against Houston with De'Aaron King and Jared Williams, and there's a couple neat plays in there that I want to put out there for you guys. I think you'll get a kick out of it. But basically, I asked Quincy about that game. What was it like to go up against Jared Williams? These guys, everybody sees it here. What he's able to do is, 6'6", 308, just a tons of size and the experience. And the one thing that he said was, just a really smart player, reliable player, those kind of things. And he's envisioning Jared stepping up for the offense to be a leader. And one thing he said was another piece to the puzzle. thought that was a good term. I think that's the way you look at what's happened with these 2020 Hurricanes in the offseason. Certainly, a lot of people on the outside will doubt Miami because of what happened last year. Rightfully so. You definitely understand why there's been so much of that. But the reason why you really like what's going on, I need to make a quick adjustment here. Just that there's, just a lot of key pieces. De'Aaron King is one, obviously Jared Williams, Quincy Roche, just a lot of Jaelan Phillips is going to be ready to go. And yeah, that's going to work. I think that's the thing when he said key piece of the puzzle. Apologize for that little bit of a delay here. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Just these guys coming in, and it's not just for depth. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not just for depth that these guys are coming in. They're coming in expected to be starters and impact players. I think that's what you talk about when you have these guys, these pieces to the puzzle, so to speak. They're supposed to be elevating what Miami had last year, jump ahead the depth chart, jump right in and play right away and be impact players. De'Aaron King's the most prime example of that at quarterback. He's supposed to be Heisman candidate, those kind of things, that kind of an impact. So I think that's the thing when he says the key piece of the puzzle. So anyways, he said that. And then someone asked him about Jaelan Phillips. And I want to talk about Jaelan a little bit. A lot of buzz with him right now in fall camp. First, I want to get to the questions here. Yeah, Kwame. Yeah, no one's talking about the youth and inexperience at running back. I agree because it's not. You can't say it's an elite productive position at this point in time. There's no doubt about it. Cameron Harris still has a lot to prove. And the running backs behind him. Can they handle the college game? Good recruits, those kind of things, but can they take that next jump and handle it, produce at the next level? Obviously, you think John Chaney can because of his physical tools, what he does in the weight room. You feel like he'll be okay physically. And so he'll just have to make sure he stays healthy and productive. So there's that. With Jaelan Phillips, certainly very intriguing. One thing I saw from watching the practices in the spring, and we got 4 to watch, parts of 4. One, we got to watch the full practice, and another one, we were able to watch up close the defensive line. And what stands out to me, and I know there's a little bit of talk of there's a lot of, he's got to shake some rust off because he didn't play the year before and he didn't practice at either, dealing with injuries and just kind of took the year off. And I get it. I understand why that's the narrative with Jaelan. But guys, I'm telling you, man, he looked really good. Like he flashed. You saw the athleticism, you saw the ability. He made plays. He was in the backfield constantly. I know that there's going to be some rust, and it's different when it live hitting and the whole thing, and I get it. However, he just doesn't seem that far off. He seems ready to go. I had an article tonight. He's ready to make an impact. I think he's very confident. I think he's proven to be healthy since he's been at Miami. Put that stuff behind. He's excited. His weight's good. He's at 266. You've got to feel good about that. Brett Baker, defensive coordinator, let us know that Jaelan's out there doing standing backflips. Like, are you kidding me? 6'5", 266 doing standing backflips? Like, everybody gets excited when the defensive lineman can dunk a basketball, but you seeing those guys doing backflips, it's crazy. So hopefully I can get some video of that for you guys. But the thing too with Jaelan, and I had it on the site tonight and also yesterday, wrote about him quite a bit because of Greg Rousseau. He's going to be the guy that steps into that starting role. He was going to play a lot as it was, but now he's definitely going to be the starter. And I think it's great to see. And I know some of you guys don't care. Some of you guys do. I'm one that likes this stuff, but he changed his jersey number. He's wearing number 15. That's what he wore at UCLA. That's what he wore in high school. That's what he wore since he was 7 years old playing travel ball, baseball. It's been his number. And what I'm saying is I know it doesn't matter to everybody, but the comfort factor of having that, if you guys have played sports at any level, you know what it's like to have your own number, just kind of, you feel good about it. So I think it's got to be a good thing for him. Not that he couldn't have made plays before. Like, don't get me wrong. I just feel like it's definitely a good thing for him. I think he's definitely excited about the season, really hyped and the whole thing. Anthony, what's going on? I'm glad you're here. Great to see you. Feels like these streams, the dynasty feels like so long ago right now. But yeah, so definitely with Jaelan, I understand there's some rust. I understand that people want to see it, but he was pretty good at UCLA. When he did play, and it was early on in his career. So I definitely think Jaelan, if we were to pick a breakout player for the team, you know, there's I like what Jeremiah Payton brings to the offense. You know, I think Cameron Harris can be productive in the running game. But if we want to talk about breakout players, like honestly, like I picked Jaelan, no doubt. He'd be my breakout player of the year for the team. I think he's that good. I think he's that productive. He could be that productive, that kind of an impact. Will he have 15 and a half sacks like Greg Rousseau? It's hard to say that just because that's such a high number. But I definitely think he's going to make an impact. So you elevate Jafari Harvey. He was always going to be that second team defensive end, but now he goes up to that number 3 spot where he can hopefully be able to play either one of them, because that number 4 DN spot to me is a huge question mark. Somebody's got to step up and prove himself, and I know people like Chance Williams, true freshman. I don't think he might not be ready yet, but I just don't see that type of guy like Jafari Harvey was last year, where I believe Harvey could have made plays if they put him in. But he didn't play much, only had 1 tackle, 4 games, preserved the red shirt. Here we are right now, looking to make an impact. Everyone talks about what a great athlete he is. And you see him out there, and he definitely looks the part. It looks like he makes plays. You see him in practice and making plays. So I think he'll be very good at that number 3 DN spot. Juan Betancourt. Juan, what's going on? Man, you know what? I It's interesting because you're not the only one. A lot of people are having a hard time with Greg Rousseau opting out. And I think it's a little surprising to see the reaction, because I don't see how you guys didn't see it coming. And I say that because it's just because, things like that were coming out. I think more guys are still going to. I think the SEC definitely watched for them as they get started a little bit later. I think it's just going to happen. I think you can understand why. Hopefully, you can understand why. And it just is what it is. I definitely think the staff was a little surprised, And it comes the day before, so maybe you're holding out hope that he does go to camp and that kind of thing. But I think the thing that stood out to me with tonight with Manny Diaz, when he talked about Greg Rousseau, just like everybody loves him, you hear that about certain players, and you're like, yeah, okay, it's fine, okay, that's nice to say, but I really think that way with Greg. I he's a very likable, humble player, humble guy. Um, Certainly, we don't know these guys like his friends and family and teammates and things like that. But to me, just being around him, um, as much as I have been, or as little, however you want to look at it, but basically, yeah, he's a good dude. He seems like a good guy, and I think it's easy to root for that. And I think that you saw that in a lot of his teammates, very happy for him, and those kind of things. So, and if I were to guess, it was probably a tough decision for him. I think all things considered, or if everything was normal, certainly he would have played. He'd love to play for UM. It just, you understand the decision making process. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you get over it. Everybody, I know it's tough. Everybody wants their best players to play for them, for sure, especially for Miami because of how bad last year went. The reason why you're excited about this year is because of guys like Greg. And so, and there's a difference between guys like Greg and the guys that are unproven and the young players, those kind of things. So that there's a big difference. Although at the top with Jaelan Phillips and Quincy Roche, certainly feel good about them. It just, once you start getting down that depth chart, it's certainly a big change there. So Anthony, breakout player, Bubba, no doubt. I'm not surprised. I spoke about him earlier. I'm definitely excited about him. So let's get to some other things. What else have we got? We got recruiting, picking up commits and things like that. Other things on the Zoom call. So Zach McLeod, let's talk about that. So Zach talked on the Zoom call. And the way it works with the reporters, we get to ask one question. We go around They call on us, we get one question. So it's um, it is what it is. I'm glad we were able to get one question in. But basically, you kind of sit around all day. You kind of know who to expect. And I wanted to ask, and maybe you guys, maybe because again, I wanted to ask it because I don't think there's a lot of discussion about it. But I want to ask Zach about Bradley Jennings Jr. and how he's coming along, his thoughts on him, those kind of things. Because if I were to pick right now, and I know there's a lot of excitement about Avery Huff, I do think Sam Brooks will be that second linebacker, assuming he's ready to go, and he'll play alongside Zach McLeod. But I would not be surprised to see Bradley Jennings Jr., if he's healthy, just kind of be in that mix more than what the general perception is. Again, everybody likes Avery Huff as a recruit, as speed, those kind of things. And I say this because in yesterday's Zoom call with Blake Baker, he mentioned Bradley Jennings Jr. just in that mix that makes you think like, okay, I think that there's a chance he's going to be in that mix. So basically, I wanted to ask Zach about him. Question was asked ahead of me, so I wasn't able to specifically ask about it because somebody else did. But the question was out there. But my question was about Sam Brooks. So I want to talk about Sam Brooks a little bit. And the one thing that Zach said that stood out to me about Sam Brooks was just his ability that he is in picking up, how he's picking up the playbook, asking questions a lot. Just that he notices those things about Greg. I apologize about Sam. I was reading the guy's chat, and I saw Greg. Who's Greg? But anyways, Greg Rousseau. But yeah, it was Sam. Just he's got that. He showed in the bowl game. You guys should watch the bowl game again, even though I know it's tough. But just he played well. So he played well in the bowl game, showed the flashes, led the team in tackles. So you're definitely excited about him, what he could bring to the table potentially. And then coming into the spring, what stood out to me about what Blake Baker talked about was he really started to notice Sam, stepping up, really he seemed comfortable in the meeting rooms, talking, asking questions, those kind of things, and those are good signs for young players. So I think Sam will get that first opportunity to play alongside Zach, I think definitely just keep your eye on Bradley Jennings Jr. Just keep your eye on, don't completely forget about him, even though he's been around, hurt, that kind of thing. Just someone to keep in mind um, during fall camp and see how things go with him. That's what stood out to me there. And Zach just seems ready to go. He's just a very mature player. Definitely seems excited about the season, and he has been. So he's looking forward to making an impact. And you kind of look back on it, and all these guys, all of us, everybody, all the players, and you think about all the situations going on with everything this year. But you look at what Zach has gone through with sitting out last year to come up to this year, and who knows what's going to happen this year. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure he's certainly looking forward to it there. Let's switch up this photo there. We got Quincy there. We're talking a lot about the defense and offensive line. I always and we touched on running backs, a little bit of De'Aaron King. Good to see that he was named the starter. And then the wide receivers, a little bit with Jeremiah Payton. I think you guys should be excited about Mark Pope, D. Wiggins. Certainly you should be excited about those guys. Just switching up this photo up a little bit. But yeah, what else do we got here? Next man up. Dennis, glad you're here. Yeah, next man up. I mean, that's just kind of the mentality you have to go with. Amari Carter, special teams captain, moved to linebacker. Not quite sure he has the weight to be a linebacker, but I know what you're thinking. Maybe a striker position for Amari. And if you're thinking about maybe position changes there, I asked Blake about the striker position. It's a position we talk quite a bit about. I don't think we talked quite a bit about Romeo Finley when he was holding down that position just fine the last couple of years. So Finley graduated, move on, signs a free agent deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. Good to see there. But so Gilbert Frierson steps in. He's been playing, but now he looks to have that lead role. But what stands out to me is Keontra Smith. You know, Frierson and Smith are both sophomores. Frierson had, they're both, on the roster as sophomores, even though Frierson's played more. Keontra played in 7 games last year on special teams, so that's why he's not a freshman. He moved past that 4-game limit. But the thing that stood out to me with Keontra was he was listed at 195 pounds last year for the official roster, up to 215 now. And I feel like that's a good size without seeing him right now, just not seeing him exactly, other than seeing him a photo, a little bit of video clip, that kind of thing. But I saw him in high school, and I saw him play linebacker in high school, and certainly there's you got to essentially have more weight than the 190 range and those kind of things from making that step up. But now he's at that 250 range. Now you're starting to see, okay, this guy, the speed's still there, those kind of things. Maybe he can fill in that striker role. And when I asked Blake about it, he said, yes, Gilbert, just kind of asked his thoughts on the two guys. He said Gilbert has more experience, but he said Keontra's looked really, really good. I think that's very interesting. I like seeing guys that don't just automatically get slotted in a depth chart because of their age or experience. I like when guys are able to get, if they're behind at one point, either rise to that next level and then pass it and jump into that mix, and earn playing time. So we'll see. I think it's definitely interesting there. A name that popped up to me that I didn't expect was Tyreek Austin Cave, another guy they're looking at in that striker spot. He's a linebacker, freshman linebacker, around the 220-pound range, so a little bit heavier. And Miami's typically gone with that safety mold, so to speak, that DB mold at that striker position since they've had it. But Zach McLeod touched on a little bit tonight, just that he played that striker Sam linebacker kind of mix when he was there, and I think maybe Austin Cave can play. That's maybe what they're looking at there as well, just that a little bit bigger of a linebacker. But on the flip side, they're also paying really close attention to cross training in the sense, who knows how the season's going to shake out, but if they need guys at different positions, they're starting to talk about that as a coaching staff, trying to decide who are some guys that maybe can play some different positions, and a little bit here and there, that kind of thing. But also, I think maybe we'll see guys that if they just thinking creatively outside the box, those kind of things. I think they'll start to do that if they haven't yet, about guys that they could possibly use at different positions. And man, I feel like we're doing the whole roster here. First day of preseason practices. This is great. It's so different than it ever has been, obviously. But I'm glad you guys are here. Hopefully, you guys are excited. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Safety. Hopefully, family's okay. Those kind of things. Certainly, those are important things. And I know sports is such an outlet for so many people. And I've enjoyed, providing that outlet information, photos, videos, all kinds of stuff. Anything we can do. I always enjoy doing that for you guys. So hopefully, this is something that helps. I want to do these live streams more often during fall camp. I know this one started a little bit late. I cannot believe we're sitting here almost 1 in the morning on the East Coast here, but this is what we do. So let's get through a few other things here. Who's returning kicks and punts, Mike? Yeah, that's a good one. And Kyle's here. Glad you're here. Yeah, Rohan Marley, definitely, man, I think you nailed it. Yeah, definitely, that would have been fun to see for sure. And that's just that hybrid. That's definitely a mix between a linebacker safety right there. But returning kicks and punts, I definitely think, yeah, Juan, I know the red shirt thing. It's tough when you see guys that don't red shirt when I don't want to say waste games on special teams, but it's essentially if they're not playing a bunch of snaps on the base offense or defense, it does feel like those roles could be, maybe you can red shirt them. The only thing I would say is the 7 feels interesting in the sense of why not do all 13 if it's just special teams like Corey Couch, like Christian Williams did. Well, they played a little bit on defense, not much. It was mostly on special teams, but they played all 13, whereas Keontra was right in that middle with that 7-game range. So it is what it is. But yeah, definitely interesting. But like I said, he looks like he could be in the mix right now. So that's really the most important thing, as far as the depth chart goes and where he'll slide in here. Returning kicks and punts, I think they're going to look at a lot of different guys. I think you could look at the freshmen even the new guys coming in. Like Xavier Restrepo did it in high school. I talked to Keyshawn Smith, freshman out of San Diego. I talked to his trainer, mentor, offensive coordinator. All those things wrapped into one. Talked to him this summer, right before camp started. Actually, you guys could see the article on the site about Keyshawn, type of player he is, workouts. Somebody on the site was curious, hey, you got anything on Keyshawn? So definitely want to put that out there. But Keyshawn returns, punts and kicks as well. He's a guy that I think should be looked at. I always like when returners have that as their lead responsibility, so to speak. Certainly, there's guys that receive that can do it, the starters, but I always like a guy that a little bit more of a reserve in terms of his playing time, but that can handle and focus just on their special teams work as a returner. So I think those are guys. Jalen Knighton's a guy that you definitely want to look at as well. Just those young guys, and again from last year, maybe a guy like Mark Pope, they look at there as well. But I just think those receivers, I'm always worried about the lead receivers having the key, returning roles as well. And as far as defensive guys, it's a little hard to say. Sometimes they give a guy a look in practice. Maybe to Corey Couch, I think from the spring, just off the top of my head, I think I remember seeing him out there in practice in the return lines. They usually do about, it seems like 6 to 8 guys that they'll have back there in the practices, and then eventually gets whittled down, and they eventually go with 1 or 2 guys as their primary guys. But they always give a good look to a number of guys. Anthony, Mason Smith to commit. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the drop and prospect conversation. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I understand why people like to talk about it, but I don't want to get into that. The only thing I'll say is Mason Smith. 2 things stand out. He's from Louisiana, obviously. LSU, you got to look at LSU as a top school. That's just kind of how it looks, and that's the way you got to look at it down here with all these guys, a lot of local guys committing. On the flip side, yeah, I saw him at Paradise Camp last year. I have a quick little clip of him doing a few things. And man, the guy is massive. You understand it when you see him. You understand why he's considered so highly, by so many guys, ranked so high and things like that. So the only thing I would say is, yes, LSU, in-state, the whole thing, coming off a big season, obviously, and a good run. The only thing I will say, though, and you guys have seen it, but just with recruiting, there's momentum is a big deal. Once you start to get the ball rolling, you start to gain momentum. And when you're those elite guys, you like playing with elite guys, and so if you're starting to see like the local guys, maybe Mason Smith thought one thing about Miami at one point, but you definitely got to look at like a guy like Leonard Taylor coming in and James Williams, those 2 premier guys at that position on defense. You have to think that he's definitely, definitely excited about it, or definitely more excited, however you want to look at it. Definitely helps, is my point. So still think it'd be difficult, but like I said, he's been here before. That's always a big thing. If he's been here, those guys that have been there, certainly give yourself a chance. And things are going well with recruiting, so you're hoping that momentum can continue to that level. Yeah, Alex, what's going on? Glad you're here as well. I always like when these new names pop on. DL's another one I haven't seen yet. These names, maybe you guys have been dropping in. HJS wants to see Marcus Clark. Again, I like the creativity that you're thinking a little bit outside the box. Again, Marcus Clark is not a guy that you would maybe point to, particularly even with the other freshmen, but he's a guy as well that you definitely could look at it as well. It's tough too with special teams in practice because, and you have ideas of ability and things like that, but there's only so much that can be replicated in practice with the special teams work as a returner compared to the game. So it's a little bit tougher for those guys to get opportunities unless they're elite, or you can absolutely see their physical tools and you just give them a shot. So man, okay, I need to pause for a second here. Kyle, on the super chat, man, that's awesome. You're the first person to ever drop a donation on the chat, on the super chat. I've done these streams before. I've kind of touched on the super chat. a little bit. Um, yeah, I'm really appreciative. I haven't even mentioned it today or anything like that. And if anybody wants to donate to the cause here to help out a little bit and drop that super chat, like Kyle did, NK Kyle, definitely shout out to you, man. Definitely just much love. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you. Definitely didn't expect that. And I honestly, I don't know how long we've been talking here. I didn't expect to go this long, but it's great. And I definitely want to do that. Like I said, I want to do this more often during fall camp. But definitely want to do it. See if I can get this done get out there a little bit earlier in the day. But I got to get my work done. I got to get the articles in, photos, all kinds of stuff. Make sure we're doing that. So, oh yeah, I see the timer. We're getting close to 1 hour. So, yeah. And Kyle, if you got any other questions, be sure to drop that in as well. I'd be glad to answer them. And you guys are true fans. Anybody that's here on this chat, you know, I don't think there's any question or diehard Miami fans. You know, like I didn't even let anybody know about it. You guys just jumped on, showing all your support, and I think it's great. So, okay, so Anthony, realistically, when you look at a guy like Christian Williams, if he has more muscle and weight, do you think he can play that striker position? Yeah, I think if he adds it, sure. The only thing is, I like his size at corner. If he can play corner, I want to keep him at corner, keep him a little bit lean, and where he can guard those bigger receivers because you just don't have that many corners like Christian. And basically, if they can cover and do it well, then I think you just keep them there because I think there's other options at striker. I know what you're saying, and I like your line of thinking. Yeah, he gets bigger. He's got DB skills. He's close to that Gilbert Frierson mold, you know, a little bit bigger, but Gilbert just packed on that weight so easily. It seemed like I was surprised, and I'd have to think back on when exactly it happened, but he came in, you know, like after we hadn't seen him for a few months. I saw him in the off season or something. It had been a few months and just saw he was completely, just you could see it in his upper body. So Gilbert just packed on that weight. I don't know if Christian exactly can get to that, but I think if he can cover him, we'll find out this year because he's going to be in more of a role there as a cornerback. They're going to need, you can't just have two guys. And I do think, you know, he's a little bit ahead of to Corey at this point based on the way Blake talked about him in the spring. So I think you give him a shot at corner. Again, striker positions, maybe you look at a Keyshawn Washington that could do that in the future moving forward. I think that could be an option again. But Frierson and Smith are just sophomores. I think if we're looking ahead, maybe a guy like James Williams, and I know that's not, I think that's taken the striker position completely to a different level in terms of an athlete. But just because of all the things he's able to do with his tackling ability and his ability to cover, I think James would give you flexibility that you're able to use. You wouldn't just be a piece at that striker position. You'd be a key piece and you'd be able to move him around. So that would be a different look. So maybe in the future, thinking something like that. Also, the reason why you think about that maybe is because you like what you have at safety, but I certainly think he can play safety at Miami, even though I know people are looking at different positions as well. So what else do we got? Yeah, and about Rohan and Ray Lewis, yeah, just a little bit of Rohan. I remember I did like a long phone call with Rohan a couple of years ago, and it was great because, you know, I didn't cover Miami at that time when he was here, but I just heard so many stories, and maybe you guys can jump on this, and you guys probably know, is Rohan the most popular Cane that didn't play in the NFL? Um, so I guess that, and then or other positions, and I don't want to count The Rock in that. So just however you want to group Rock, if they're not a big time actor or NFL player. I think Rohan falls into that category. He's one of the most popular, one of the most beloved Hurricanes of all time. The way he played, all kind, everything about him. So, but maybe you can think of other guys that were like that as well. So here we go. Honest opinion: convinced Ja'Cory Brooks from Booker T. Yeah, wouldn't that be crazy though? I mean, for Miami to flip, you know, and it's great what they've been able to do, but to do that's a whole another level. But the only thing I would say is, and I would have said this before, I think any time with recruiting, you always look at the local prospects as you've got a shot. Now, a lot of things change, and I'm not just talking about Miami. I'm talking about Ohio kids at Ohio State, Michigan guys going to Michigan, those elite programs, guys in the state of Oklahoma going to OU. It's not just Miami thing. I just think local players, you always have a shot at them. I think a lot of so there's that. So let's just take that from the jump, then combine what's going on right now with recruiting. Again, touching on Leonard Taylor and James Williams, and those guys are so important because guys want to play with them. It's not just they're one good player Miami gets. Those guys have pull within their communities, within their teams, within the other good players, within their 7-on-7 or travel team, just everything. Guys want to play with good players, and so Ja'Cory, certainly an excellent player. I still, just the thing that stands out to me is when he was younger, when he had that game-winning touchdown on Tyreek Stevenson. Um, yeah, it was crazy. And it was just very impressive. And on that play, I was filming from the end zone. And to be honest, with football, um, and it was a short touchdown, but I filmed the whole route from the jump. I was like, I think they're going to go to Ja'Cory. So instead of trying to follow the ball, I had my camera just on that matchup, and yeah, it was pretty crazy, and they won the game. So, but I definitely think I know it's crazy. They've got a shot because it's a local guy. I think obviously everyone knows what Alabama is as a program. I just think with what Miami's been able to do, and if Miami's able to create not just the buzz and the offseason stuff, the recruiting, the attention, the excitement, but you start turning that into a really successful season, then maybe if it's not Ja'Cory, but maybe guys like that, um, that maybe they give that second thought to Miami. So you're hoping for that on-field production as you take a step to get guys like that. Man, look at the GOAT right here. Man, Kyle, this is crazy, dude. Like, seriously, man, I don't even know. I definitely appreciate you. I definitely do. This is great. That's awesome. So you're crushing it on the super chat. You're crushing it on the chat. Jumping in here. It's really helpful as we continue to move forward here. So definitely appreciate you, man. Rohan Marley fan, all this stuff. And again, diehard fans, all of you guys are. If you guys are here on this, and if you want to do stuff like Kyle, you can jump on that, hit that little, the $ icon. You drop a little anything is good, and the $9.99 is crazy good, man. That's awesome. Definitely appreciate it. Sports Chai, I'm glad you're here. I haven't shouted you out yet. If you just jumped on, hopefully I didn't miss you. Um, Definitely glad that you're here as well. Alex, you know what? I just want to bring you up real quick, man. When I talk about diehard fans, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all the frontline players. I mean, you're a diehard fan if you're bringing up Daz Worsham. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys are, and that's how fans are. You guys want to. I've always felt that. Since starting Inside the U, it's always been about all the guys on the roster. And I don't want to just erase some guys because they're not in the mix on the depth chart. Everybody's interested. And I know there was a fan, and I can't remember if it was you, but somebody was here from Alabama. So maybe you have that tie to Daz, and that tie. Maybe you want to see how he does. So get some snaps. I don't know about this year, but the only thing I'd say is we don't know exactly how many wide receivers they want to play with. I remember a call over the off season with Rob Likens, the wide receivers coach, a new one, about how many. I'm always curious. How many do you want in your rotation? And the big thing he said was it was kind of a mix. And I think because some guys will go to a coach will say they want this many, that kind of thing. But the one thing he did say, and I'm glad he said it because I believe in it, he's willing to play the top guys a lot. And I know that seems obvious maybe, but not really. Sometimes you'll take the top guys out. You want to give more playing time to other guys. You want to play more depth, the whole thing. They feel bad for that kind of thing. So the fact that he's willing to do that, the only thing is I don't think there's not that true frontline guy. I do think that there's separation, but I don't think those guys at the top, as good as they are, um, they're not those automatic first round types like he's had in the past. Coach Likens has coached some guys recently, but a guy like Daz, the thing to keep in mind is again, learn the playbook, make sure he understands the route combinations, all those kind of things. But the offense could allow receivers, a number of guys to play. So they're sitting at 10 receivers on the roster. The 10, though, that includes former walk-on Marshall Few, earned a scholarship a while back, but he hasn't played. He hardly doesn't play very much. So you can't say he's just automatically in the mix in that 10. And then the 10th guy was Elias Fagundu Lugo. I think I got it right. I don't have it in front of me. Number 34. It was a former walk-on, picked up a scholarship in the spring. I have not received confirmation. I've reached out to UM to ask if he's still on scholarship and haven't heard back. And it's always a tricky situation with scholarships. But anyways, I'm just going to assume he's on scholarship. So anyways, there's 10 receivers. 2 of them are former walk-ons. So now you're looking at a guy like Worsham. Is he in that 7-8 range? But he's been there with Keyshawn Smith. Xavier Restrepo is a slot guy, so he's a little bit different than Daz. So now now you're looking at his direct competition with Keyshawn kind of in that mix. So if they play a lot of receivers, maybe he can get some snaps. I think he's a redshirt candidate just based on even if you move out 2 other receivers, now you're sitting at 8. It seems like some things would have to happen for him to get in that true mix. But I will say this, watching Daz in the workout videos, on those training videos I was able to get over the summer, I liked his quickness and his footwork seemed to be working. Certainly he's got room to grow, get better and those kind of things. But I think you saw some signs, some things that gives you some excitement maybe moving forward. So whether it's this year, but hopefully soon, hopefully he sticks with the process, even if you do get kind of buried on the depth chart a little bit. So I think there is something there as long as he builds from it. So what else we got? Lakers all day. How many interceptions defense have? I don't know. Actually, you know what? I was just going to throw out a number, but I have my stats right here in front of me. So I'm going to give you the number. I have my stats page. Defense last year had 10 interceptions. Let me quickly look here. And all 10 were by the defensive backs or the strikers. So it's a number you obviously want to see a little bit higher. You'd like to see a little bit more if you can somehow get those returns for touchdowns, those kind of things. But yeah, 10 interceptions. Ivy with 3, then Blades with 2. So that's a big thing there. So hopefully you're hoping those get to those mid 5. If you can get to 5, those kind of range. So there we go. Anthony, Jake Garcia, if he actually finalizes his transfer to the school, you know what? I was looking at the roster. Yeah, and I don't mind giving you guys not even a nugget. It's at 1 in the morning here. I was looking at Valdosta. Maybe, if you guys have seen those high school videos I've been able to put together, I built the Miami Central Northwestern video game, and then I just did Palmetto, American Heritage. I have a lot of fun doing those, and I've been kind of thinking on my next one, and I was kind of thinking maybe the Valdosta Lowndes matchup there. It's a huge matchup in Georgia. And I was thinking maybe the Jake Garcia, the Jacurri Brown, and obviously Miami with commit there with Thomas. So, but anyways, I was looking at the roster and he's not there. And as far as Jake goes, I was looking at his profile and it still says California, but so I don't think it's been finalized. Unless it has, it just hasn't shown any updated. So, but I think Jake, he's saying all the right things as far as USC goes, but I know you guys are still keeping an eye on him. And again, he's one of those guys that maybe you flip him with on-field production. That's what you're hoping for, even though, once again, you understand why he likes USC and everything. And so we'll see. Yeah, Marcus, what's going on? There's some Alabama. See, I know you guys from everywhere. There's a, I'm assuming you're in Bama. I can't remember if you're the one that somebody said. But anyways, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. I know it's crazy, small world. A lot of people have those connections and with recruiting and all kinds of stuff. So Lakers all day. How did Michael Redding do today? I'm not quite sure in the sense that we didn't see practice, and I've not been able to check in. It was late tonight. But the thing I'll say about Michael is he's ready to go. He's healthy, those kind of things. So that's a good sign. Missed the spring, or he's limited in the spring. He ran routes with his cast on, but didn't catch passes. So you're glad to see that that's not an issue anymore. Not that it was expected, but you never know if there's any sort of setback, or maybe it's a more serious thing than it was led on. But he's good to go. So, and he's another one. I didn't mention him in that mix as well. You know, I mentioned the other receivers. He slipped my mind, but yeah, Daz, Redding, Keyshawn Smith. Those three are a little bit different than Restrepo in the sense that Restrepo is more of that slot guy, a slot build. So who do I think will start at linebacker? Yeah, I think it's going to be Zach McLeod for sure. And I think it'll be Sam Brooks. I think he'll get that first crack at it. I touched on it earlier. I think Jennings is the one to watch. And just because the way that the way that Blake Baker talked about him yesterday in the Zoom call, I was in on that and just kind of hearing him talk and kind of reading between the lines. And then um, I just kind of think maybe if he's healthy, he's just one of those guys uh, to keep an eye on. So when is the next one? Randy, what's going on? Shout out to you. Glad you're here. Thanks for jumping on. When is the next announcement? I don't know. It feels like every few hours there's an announcement, right? In this weekend, but yeah, I think the next one is Corey Collier or for Jason Marshall. Those are two guys that maybe they pop um, with an announcement. And I know obviously you guys are looking forward to hopefully you've gotten three guys from Palmetto and hoping to wrap it up with five. So those will be the next two, at least big time guys to watch. But obviously, I think you guys saw Miami picked up another commitment today, 2022 class. So they're just continuing to make moves in recruiting. I wrote an article about, just how much has gone on. I mean, they've gotten, so today would have been the 10th commitment in the last, since June, in the 2021 and 2022 classes combined. So 10 commitments, it's a lot of momentum. It's really crazy in the sense that um, you know, they're doing all this without Paradise Camp or without visits or these kind of things. So it's good that they've been able to do that and that players are not holding off. And I know some people want to say, which, I understand that they're not able to visit other schools, they're staying home, they're not able to visit. And that's certainly part of it. But also, you got to give Miami staff credit for being able to convince them to still come to because they're not able to visit there either. Um, and maybe players would hold off on a commitment, but they're not. They're going ahead and picking Miami. So you got to give Miami staff credit. So that's good to see. Hold on one second. We're going live stream 1 in the morning, 1:12 on the clock here, talking for an hour and 12 minutes. But this is good. I want to keep doing this because I think what's good is you guys read all the articles and maybe you guys have some questions and just some discussion, or maybe you haven't seen into the photos, the video, those kind of things. But just being able to do this is great. I like talking to you guys. Once again, shout out to Kyle for dropping in on that super chat, man. That's a huge help. Didn't see that coming, blows me away, that kind of support. But all you guys have showed tons of support on the channel. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very helpful over these last few months with everything going on to see this kind of support. And then, like I said, the video game stuff I've been able to do with the series and different things there. You guys showed a lot of support, and that was a lot of fun. So that was great to see. So yeah, Corey's announcement. Yep, you got it August 10th. You guys got that right. There we go. Lakers all day, dropping that in there. Appreciate that. Yeah, Randy. I think Randy. I've seen that sentiment with Corey, and I'm a little surprised because I think very highly of Corey Collier. I think he can play safety. I think he can play corner. I think he's got potential future past college. I think he's going to be an NFL guy, certainly if things go well. I just think he's a very good player. Whenever I've seen him, whether it's 7-on-7 or in games, he's highly productive against the pass and the run, racks up a number of tackles, gets his hands on balls, intercepts passes, those kind of things. So when I've seen him, he's been very good. And I'm surprised that there's been this little bit of um, I don't know if it's a slight or just, and I understand with where Miami's at right now, they've got other guys, but I think he's a very good player, and I think he'd be a great take for Miami. I think he's got a great chance to do well. Yeah, Anthony, what do we got here? So you're talking about Vandergrift, we flip. I think he's staying, man. I think I could see Brock staying at Georgia. Um, I know he's really good. I know there was some excitement there. It just seems like he's a Georgia guy, unless things change. I wouldn't. I think Jake, if you're talking about possibilities of the two, I think Jake would be more of a potential, even though again committed and the whole thing. So, and Brock's certainly good. I just don't think he's. I don't think it's a possibility. Yeah, Randy, it's going to depend. I mean, who knows what the roster looks like? It's going to how it shakes out and everything. So, yeah. So what else do we got? I'm trying to think on the Zoom call some other stuff I've been able to talk about, different positions and whatnot. So, um, and again, so tomorrow's Zoom call after practice again. Practice wraps up around 8:30, and then we do uh, Zoom calls. So tomorrow we got Corey Gaynor, got Garen Justice, offensive line coach. He's talking, and then De'Aaron King. So that's always good. I'm curious, yeah, if there's questions you guys have in mind for De'Aaron, let me know. Make sure we get to those. Yeah, so Neil, what's going on? Glad you're here. Touched on Mason a little bit earlier. Um, Obviously, I feel like LSU, the season they had, he's from from the area, those kind of things. The only thing you're hoping for with Miami is the momentum they've had in recruiting and the fact that I remember seeing him at Paradise Camp. So you're hoping that there is something there. Um, Obviously, you would think that the Leonard Taylor thing would be intriguing to him as well. But um, again, it's just hard to pull really good players. You guys are seeing it right now. When teams are very successful in state, locally, it's tough to pull that. Um, and I think that is amazing. What's going on, Griffin? Yeah, how's it going, man? I'm glad you're here. That's exciting. I'm glad you guys popped on. This is great. Yeah, I did been doing this live stream last hour or so, but hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're having a good day. And yeah, I was just thinking about the video the other day, so that's good. Hopefully soccer's going well. Just in here talking about some Miami Hurricanes football. They had their first practice today, and we've got so many fans here that so many guys are excited from all over the country, the United States, popping in here. And I think I've seen that with Miami fans over the years, just so much support from everywhere. And it's great you're in here at Griffin. So glad you're doing well. Um, so what do we got? Maryland, yeah, Randy. Unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, I think that's just kind of where we're at. We're going to see guys opt out. North Carolina had a number of guys. Like I said, once the SEC gets going with their schedule, I think you're as it gets closer to when teams start, I think you'll start seeing that more. So yeah, no doubt, man. Griffin, I wish things were different for sure. It's tough not being able to see everybody. So, um, and that's kind of where we're at right now with practices and things like that. We're not able to get out there to practice as much as we'd like. Um, and it's tough right now for all you Miami fans because I know you guys are super excited about the season because this is supposed to be a big year for Miami. So, Kyle, you're jumping in these. Man, the super chat is awesome. We got it. What are we doing here? We're just gonna keep this thing going. This is great. I'm keeping it up. I'm trying. Got my water. I'm getting this love. All the support is happy. We have so many people on the channel right now viewing it, hitting that like button. We need everybody to hit the like button for sure. And yeah. So Anthony, yeah. As far as your question about Jason Marshall, as far as I know, there's nothing scheduled at this time. Certainly, CBS HQ would love to have him if he's ready to make a certain date an announcement. So hopefully that can get done. I'd like to see it there. But yeah, nothing as of yet. So yeah, Kyle. Yeah, what's going on? Yep. Hopefully, I think you're right. Hopefully things are good. I think it's good for you guys, man. Like I'm here for you guys. You know what I mean? Like presenting all the information and still doing that as much as we can, whether it's articles and videos and all kinds of stuff. Um, just trying to give you guys as much information as possible. So, Randy, you wrong for that, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough how things have gotten switched. So, Vivek, what's going on? Hopefully, I said your name. I'm glad you're here. That's a good question, man. Like, what's Jaelan Phillips? What his 40 is? You know, he talked about earlier. He's at 266 pounds, doing standing back flips, which is absolutely ridiculous at 6'5". The burst is there. I think it's. Um, I bet if I were to guess, I'd say it's elite for his size. That's why his speed, his size speed combination is why so many people liked him as a recruit. Why he was the #1 ranked recruit coming out 2017. So that's why you liked him. 17, 16, 17, I think. You guys know that. But anyways, yeah, that's why, because he's got that speed. Don't know exact number, but I definitely think that's why. I definitely think it's very good and impressive. And I think you're going to see, again, he's my breakout pick for this year. Nice, Griffin. That's exciting. The soccer monsters are crushing it. But now they're the Dragons. Everybody shout out to the Dragons. We got to show our support for the Dragons this year. So definitely good. So let's see. Been able to talk to Coach Gino. I talked to him. It's probably been a month or two since I last talked to him. But I definitely like keeping up with him, and he's always good to talk to. And I always, you know, we're here in August. We're so busy with fall camp with football, obviously, but baseball stuff. Definitely want to touch on with that. I had an article about the new facility there for baseball, so that was good. That they're set to get that thing started. I think it looks great too. Just the photos I've seen, it looks very good. I know they're excited. They're gonna have another strong team there. So we got Williams. Jalen's next Warren Sapp. Yeah, I don't think that's his build. I think it's just that defensive end that you can do a lot with. He doesn't look like he weighs the 266. And there's a short clip if you guys want to see it. I have put it up on the channel about highlights of today's practice. It's a quick clip, but you can see Jalen's ability up close. And I had an article about it. He's switching to number 15. So maybe you guys are looking for the 95 and you don't see it. But yeah, he switched to number 15. Talked about that a little bit earlier. But yeah, look at that clip. You can see what I'm talking about with that ability there. He just has that. He doesn't look. Um, he just yeah, he's got weight, but he just moves so well, so fluidly off the edge. I think if he can be that rush edge, you can put him in a lot of different defenses off the edge, whether it's a linebacker, kind of like he did a little bit at UCLA, but he's able to certainly do a lot for defense. But definitely has that speed. I think what you're saying with Warren, that quick ability, that impact that you can make at the defensive line position, sacking the quarterback, kind of that relentless attitude for sure. So, and again, Jalen's just so excited for this year, guys. I think it's um, I think he's healthy and definitely excited. So good to see. Yeah, Leonard Taylor, no doubt, he's very good. I think we talk about him. I think everything, you know, the athleticism, the ability to make plays, he does it. It's a lot of fun when he gets his hand on the ball, those kind of things, some rare plays that he's able to make. It's impressive for sure. So, yeah, Lakers all day. I'm sure I understand where that's coming from. I always like the taller point guards as well. Um, it's not a slight on Chris Likes. He's definitely been really productive at Miami. But I know what you're saying, just that little bit bigger size, particularly on defense. I think that's some of the things that a little bit limitations that Miami had last year with their guards, both particularly when they got into ACC play with their starting backcourt being a little bit smaller. So, Randy, yeah, I see your comment. Which comments are we talking about? Let me know. Um, maybe I'm losing track here, but yeah, let me know which comments you're talking about. And yeah, Patrick Mahomes when it's hurt, yeah, waiting for him to get back in the game. We were all like that. Huge Patrick Mahomes fan. I'm glad you are. I am too. He's a lot of fun. What else have we got? Yeah, that's interesting, Anthony. Just that combination, that athletic ability, that size and athletic ability, really good hands, gets off the ball really well. That's what um, strikes me. To be honest with you, with his ability. Just when I watched his games, and then when I go back, when you're watching games, it's one thing, but being at the game, I go back and watch him cut up the film from everything I got from the game, and that's the thing I notice all the time with him. Is just he's always off the ball. He's always quick off the ball. He's got a burst. He's just always he just has a constant motor that you really like to see, and I feel like he's going to continue to get better, even though he's already a good player. So I think again when I talk about him, there's so much attention and excitement and ability, the rankings and all that stuff. But for me, it's there. Like he has it. You can nitpick a lot of the good guy, a lot of guys and the good players too. But I just think with Leonard, there's no doubt he's got a lot that brings to the table. A lot of people should be excited about him. And yeah, how do you donate money? You can donate money like Kyle's been crushing it. So it's called a super chat. And what it does is you hit the button at the bottom with that $sign, the square right below where the chat is, next to the smiley face. So if you hit that, it links to your account, and you can donate, help the channel, help me out, show your support. It's great. It shows you, it stays up there. Everybody can see that you donated, those kind of things. I'll definitely make sure. Uh, I definitely appreciate when anybody does that. And Kyle was the first one to do that, man. It's really cool. Definitely didn't expect it to come. Definitely didn't expect that to happen, but definitely appreciate it for sure. Yeah, DJ Johnson. Yeah, I remember him. I know there was excitement. I know he was a good recruit and those kind of things, but I didn't feel the same way about Leonard Taylor as DJ Johnson. Like you know, I think Leonard's a real deal, and I think DJ just had work to do. Um, I don't, why did he transfer? He didn't play much, those kind of things, and um, just West Coast kid. Like I don't know if you want to consider it homesick, but he definitely went closer to home. Um, so it just didn't work out at Miami, and it happens. Make a video, like 25 players that you would know on your team. Yeah, check out Instagram. You guys are on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Yeah, you guys are ahead of me on that. I've thought about doing the Instagram thing, and maybe I should at one point, but I feel like I feel like I'm not even great at Twitter. So, but yeah, hopefully the live stream, I can keep that up, keep the YouTube channel going. So what else do we got? Let's touch on a few things. It is getting a little bit late here. It is a little bit different with covering practices, that we don't have those early morning practices, but you can definitely. So things are shifting. As far as right now, they're practicing at night, and things could change. But we only know the first three practice schedules. So they go Saturday at night, 6:30 to 8:30, and then Sunday night as well. And Sunday they're going to go with pads for the first time. So that'll be big as they get going. And I think the big thing with pads is you look at the line play, offensive line, defensive line. Those are the two positions that you definitely see a different. And Manny pointed it out today when I asked Coach about Jared Williams, his impressions of him. He's always quick. Coaches do this. So like they'll say some things that are good about an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, but they quickly preface it by saying there's no pads. So we'll see when pads go on. And I understand it. I've been doing this for a while, and it's the same stuff every year. And I understand. I agree too. I feel that way about 7-on-7 stuff sometimes. About it gets a little bit overblown with camps and 7-on-7 stuff about their abilities when you really want to see what they do in pads. It's just you, you like how they move around and those kind of things, but things are just different when you got the pads on and you get hit. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, man. I hopefully Miami can get a guy like Patrick Mahomes. That'd certainly be a lot of fun. But I think Derek King. I think talk about some of these other guys. Derek King there's reason to be excited about him. I don't think there's any question. And I know some people maybe a little bit doubt that he had the production at Houston. The only thing I would say, if you if you take a look at what De'Aric's been able to do over his football career, he's always been doubted. He's always proved people wrong. I mean, that's just what he's done. He did it in high school. He was started out at a small school, transferred to a big school, a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of competition. Goes in there, wasn't even a guy that was supposed to play when he made that transfer. So he goes into fall camp. They get him like in a preseason practice, and he wasn't even supposed to play. He wasn't even supposed to get in there. He said his story is he was like the eighth string quarterback or something crazy like that. And he gets in there for like the final play or two of the scrimmage at the end. And he says he doesn't really even know how he got in there, but he did, and he made some nice plays, so that it kind of just grew from there. A little bit more playing time. It's really just that true story of getting an opportunity, taking advantage of it. He just kept growing, got the starting job, beat out a guy, that kind of thing, and ran away from him. Had a huge high school career. So you saw him at Houston, gets in there. Uh, they had another guy at quarterback, Greg Ward, so he was a starter, and De'Aric was just a backup. They moved him to wide receiver the week of the OU game to start off his career. Just starts making plays at wide receiver. So then they switch him back to quarterback after a good year at wide receiver, even returned a kick for a touchdown, which is absolutely ridiculous for a quarterback. Does that. They flip him to quarterback. When it's his time, shines once again. He just simply that guy that always shines in the moment, regardless of whatever moment you put him in. He's a really good basketball player as well in high school. So will he be able to handle it? I don't think there's any question that he'll be able to handle it. I think he'll be very productive. I think he'll be a great player for Miami. I think you guys will be excited about him. I think you should be excited about him. I understand you could doubt everybody, but De'Aric definitely has it. I think you should feel good about him, and hopefully he can have a huge year for Miami. So what else do we got? We got some more recruiting stuff. Harvey being the forgotten one. Yeah, Harvey's certainly the forgotten one because of you understand why with Rousseau, what he was able to do last year, ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year. Then you bring in Quincy Roche, and he was a Conference Defensive Player of the Year at Temple. Your number three guy is Jaelan Phillips, productive at UCLA, former #1 recruit in the country. You want to talk about forgotten one? Those resumes are just way higher than Harvey. And the reality is, Harvey didn't do much last year. He played 4 games. They limited him to 4 games, had 1 tackle. So he's forgotten for a reason because he just doesn't have that resume. But you guys know, you guys are diehard fans. You guys know, you read some of the stuff we say. You saw him as a recruit. You can watch him on film. The ability is there. The athletic ability is there. And I don't think there's any question that he's going to be a productive player at Miami when it's his opportunity. This is certainly an opportunity for him. And you said forgotten one. Those are exact terms that Blake Baker used with him. That he does kind of seem to be a forgotten one, but you can kind of understand why based on everybody else's resume. And we still want to see it from Jafari, but I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to be productive. So I think maybe a year from now, it might be different. He will have a little bit on his resume a year from now. So here we go. So Anthony, question about recruiting in general. How does recruiting for a kid get affected if he constantly transfers from different schools? Does it change the stay the same? If we're talking about high schools, changing high schools a lot. When Florida, it just happens all the time down here. Florida opened up, they changed the rules allowing essentially open transfers. So if we're talking about how recruiting goes, if they recruit high schools in general or recruit players that change high schools, they've probably gotten used to it. I assume that's what you're talking about. You're talking about Leonard Taylor. He's a guy that's been at 3 high schools in his first 3 years, and he's staying at Palmetto for this year. So, and that's just an example because we were talking about him earlier. You mentioned James Williams. He was at Western last year, American Heritage, but the year before that, then he goes back to American Heritage this year. So it's just part of it. It's how it goes. I think my favorite recruit or transfer high school stuff, and you guys probably know this too. I remember a guy in the spring said he went to one school for a day, transferred back because mom said no, that kind of thing. So that didn't last very long. So I think that happens too a little bit. Just kind of moving around. So it just kind of happened. So will Miami be able to sign more than 25? That seems to be the discussion about NCAA is going to open that up a little bit and change that rule. The only thing, the only thing I'm curious about, and I understand why, like it is complicated, or you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But the reason why it went to 25 in the first place, because schools were signing, big time schools would sign 35, 40 guys, and essentially weed out the rest, and then it really puts them at advantage. The school puts some kids at some disadvantage because they still have the 85 total max was still the thing, and I think that's still going to stay the same. It's just the 25 stuff, um, and maybe it'll just be a one-time deal based on how this year has gone. So I think in general, if they want to move it or change it, it will be interesting if they want to do that to essentially open that back up where teams can oversign and go 40, and then basically it can be a little bit messy for the recruit himself. Um, and also a little bit, it just becomes a little bit a little convoluted. I think that's why things were changed before. So starting offensive lineman, that's a good question. Sports Chai, I bet it's Chai or Chi Town, but it's interesting. So tonight I asked Manny about Jared Williams. He said he played right tackle tonight at practice. So, but I think Jared should play left tackle. I think that will still happen. I think they've got, we're still a month away from the game, but I think eventually I could see him moving there. The only thing I'd say is, again, Rhett Lashley has said, he said it yesterday that he thinks the left tackle position's a little bit overrated. So it makes me think that maybe he's not going to make Jared that right tackle the way you think. NK Cobb with that thumbs up. Glad you're still here, man. I'm glad you're here. That super chat. Champion for sure, the GOAT, dropping in that thumbs up. So I think Jared, but anyway, so you go left tackle there, right tackle, you're looking at Zion Nelson. The only thing I would say about that is John Campbell keeps his name in the conversation, even though he didn't play as much as these guys. John Campbell is obviously impressed in the offseason, impressed the new coaching staff, and I think he's firmly in the mix. I don't think it's just for show. I think he's a guy to definitely got to keep in mind. They're talking about him at tackle. I wonder if maybe you look at him at a guard spot. So we're kind of rotating around. So Zion Nelson started left tackle. Now he's maybe the left or right. But I think they still like John Campbell. Maybe he's the left tackle. If we're guessing predictions, then you go DJ Scaife, who's played right tackle in his career quite a bit. I think he's looking at a guard spot. Rhett Lashley didn't mention him when he was rattling off the tackles at that position. So I think right now you got to look at Scaife as a guard. I think Corey Gaynor still has that starting center spot. I think Ja'Kai Clark started at right guard last year. Yes, he could slide. He could stay there, put Scaife at left guard, or stay there. But in the spring, we saw him as a backup center. And that's where most people thought he'd play coming out of high school. So maybe you go there. And but either way, you could throw him in a guard mix. Personally, I was surprised last year that he played and started, to be honest with you guys. So I'm not surprised that he's fell back a little bit. But he's in the mix for sure. I think Jalen Rivers, if they want to go young, you go Jalen Rivers. He's a guard. A lot of people thought he was a tackle in high school, but he's played guard at Miami since he enrolled. I think he's a guy that definitely, if he has a good, productive camp, I think he can. I don't think it's out of the realm to start a freshman. They did it last year with two guys, with Clark and Nelson. And I think Rivers, again, there's guys there, but if he can have a strong fall camp, I think he's a guy that can stay right there and do well. So I think if we're talking about starters, I think those are kind of the names you're looking at. I think a guy like Kylan Herbert, Salante Hillary, those guys are still back a little bit. Mitchell Clark a little bit. And then if Isaiah Walker gets that waiver, I think he immediately goes in the discussion, depending on when he gets the waiver, that kind of thing, if he gets it. But I think he immediately goes right in there as well as a potential starter. So I think, who's going to start. So I think kind of rotating around. But I'm definitely curious. I think it's definitely a huge talking point because we're not exactly sure because they shuffle things around so much. So there we go. Griffin, what's going on? You're on the couch eating snacks in the basement. That's the way to do it. and that you now live in a mansion. That's great to hear. And yeah, I'm reading all of them. Glad you're doing well. I'm surprised you're up. I'm gonna have to check in and see what's going on with that later. But Anthony, what do we got here? So how does recruiting for coach staff in college football in general get? Yeah, we just did that, and I'm repeating stuff. Um, James Williams. Yeah, you know what? With James Williams too, and I saw it in the playoff game I went to last year in high school. Uh, Certainly played defense, that kind of thing. Plays that safety position, but then they flip him to offense, which only makes sense in a big game. And he hauls in like a 50-yard touchdown catch. It didn't play there a ton, but when you flip him over to offense, that's what you want to see from a big time recruit. Even though that's not his position, he just makes plays. And when you talk about when I think about that play in particular, and you talk about his wingspan, that's what stands out to me. I mean, it felt like he mossed a guy, just jumped and used his reach, athletic ability, and made a great play. And that it definitely shined right there when you said wingspan. He definitely showed it right there for sure. The projectable body types to move forward to the front seven during the career. Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting with James, and I say this because from covering Ray Armstrong when he was a highly regarded prospect out of Sanford, Seminole there, highly regarded guy, the whole thing, size, everyone expect, the safety, that kind of thing. And I remember just kind of thinking about Ray's career. I mean, he was big time, man. He was legit. He gets to UM. He wants to stay at safety under Randy Shannon, and he stays at safety throughout his career. So then afterwards, I remember having a long conversation with Randy after Randy left UM, and that was one of the topics we talked about. He always felt that Ray would have been a good linebacker, but Ray didn't want to play linebacker, that kind of thing. And that happens with guys. And it wasn't a bad safety. Randy just kind of felt that would have been his best position, and it's tough with players, particularly high level players. You understand why he wanted to stay at safety. So, anyways, Ray goes to the NFL, and we've seen Ray play linebacker. I think he's still with the team, right? Maybe he got cut recently in the last year or so. Maybe no longer on a roster. Now that I think about it, but still played years in the NFL, trying to hang on, those kind of things, that linebacker. And, I think Ray, um, and I remember talking to him when he was in the NFL about that, about playing linebacker. Essentially, he wishes maybe he would have made that move sooner in college, looking back on his career. And so it just happens. Bringing this up because James is very similar in terms of his body, um, in terms of his athletic ability, those kind of things. I'm not saying James has to play linebacker or anything like that. I just wonder how his career will pan out. I wonder his willingness to move around. We mentioned a little bit earlier about maybe a striker position, and I mentioned it not to diminish the striker position. It's just a guy like James, you just want to move him around. He has so many skills. You just want to make sure you're maximizing his ability um, as a tackler, as an athletic a guy, and also a guy that can cover. So and make plays. So that's why you're thinking maybe. And the thing is, you put a guy like that at a striker position, now you have an elevated position for sure. But everything else has to fall in line. You've got to have good linebackers and a good safety if you're moving James there. So that's my thoughts there. Neo, shout out to you working late, man. Anybody else that's working late too, shout out to you guys for putting in that work, staying on that grind, especially during this time. So keep doing what you got to do. Stay safe wherever you're at. And yeah, the plan is, Neo. You know what? Anybody that followed the last few months saw the live streams with the dynasty, with the video game stuff I was doing. Essentially, from my mind, I was doing it for the moment because there wasn't anything going on. I had some fun with it with you guys, but I was always thinking about how would I implement it, how I could use these kind of skills for the fall. And I'm still working on this stuff and technology, and also being in front of camera. It's not the most natural thing for me, but working on it. And essentially, I've been using those kind of things, hopefully for practice for this. And my goal is, Neo, is to do more of this. I wanted to do this um, tonight, and I didn't put it out there till I literally hit hit live, and that's because I didn't know, because I had to get all the articles. I had to write my articles. I had to do the videos, all that stuff. I want to get all the content up there on the site before I could do this and chat with you guys. And I didn't know how long it would take, but I was able to get this started just before midnight. And so I like to do it tomorrow as well. Because the reason why is because I like to relay the information, guys. There's stuff coming out with these Zoom calls, and I probably could have done one yesterday with the Rousseau stuff. Just getting through all that. There's a lot of stuff going on, position by position. You guys have been asking about essentially every position as we go through the team, and what I'm looking forward to. We can talk all we want over the off season and what might happen, those kind of things, but now that fall camp is starting, you're going to start to see some movement, and I expect to see maybe some position changes, or not position changes, but maybe some depth chart stuff kind of emerge, or the guys doing well, those kind of things. I'm looking forward to, um, continuing adjusting to whatever the news is, and we'll talk about it. Whatever's going on with the team, what there's difference between what we think might happen as opposed to what will happen or what does happen. So I think that'll be good. That'll be fun. I mean, that's what you guys like. I know you guys, we like to sit and talk and what might happen and what you think and those kind of things. But when things start actually happen, I mean, that's essentially what you guys love about sports, is just seeing the results actually play out however they might do, and you get surprised, and some people you don't get surprised. Sometimes your eyes tell you, and that's exactly what goes on. So, but I definitely, in thinking about this, I am going to wrap this up, guys. It's been a long time. It's been a lot of fun, but I definitely, and I apologize, Neil, because you just said this is great, and I'm trying to dip out on you, but we can definitely do this again, and we can definitely keep this going for sure. Get better at it. We'll keep this thing going for sure. And yeah, so just real quick before we get out of here, yeah, Jaelan Phillips had a game against Texas A&M at UCLA where he looked dominant. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I think that we saw at UCLA was when he was in there, you saw it. There was those flashes um, of him playing well. Certainly dealt with injuries, but also I don't think there's any question that it's not like he hasn't done it or you haven't seen anything from him. I think what we've seen when we go back and watch this from the, and that's good you remember that, um, that he played well, and that's kind of my interpretation and things I've seen, from watching those UCLA games, the ones I've been able to see since he's made that transfer. Um, and I think there's reasons to be excited about it, for sure. So yeah, sports, I appreciate it, man. Yeah. And then Griffin, I'm always talking to you. I'll talk to you in a second, though. I need to get off of this, though. Guys, I appreciate it. NK Kyle, much love. I definitely appreciate it. Not just words, man. Definitely going to appreciate that for a long time. You're the first person to drop in on that super chat. That huge bonus is big time. I don't do that. I don't do this for that. So it's really nice to get that. It's really appreciative. So thanks again for doing that. And everybody else, so many people on this right now. You can watch this back if you have any questions. So maybe we didn't get to everything. Let's do this again tomorrow night. And yeah, we'll keep it going. I'll keep the news going. Check out InsideTheU.com. We actually, all month long, guys, 50% off a VIP subscription. Yeah, it's good to get if you don't have one yet. But definitely do it. Lakers all day. Keep it up. Neo, man, that's awesome. All the stars, all the love for you guys. You guys are the goats, especially NK Kyle, man. I hope you guys understand why. I appreciate him so much. But all you guys are awesome. And we'll keep this thing going and stay positive as much as possible. Be healthy, all that good stuff, man. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. We'll see you guys tomorrow.